Good evening and welcome to the third and final meeting tonight. My name is Dennis Buckley, Mayor of the City of Beech Grove, and at this time we will convene our City Council meeting for Tuesday, September the 7th, 2021. In lieu of a roll call, I will ask each participant to introduce themselves, beginning on my left.
Dave Harrison, Councilman District 5.
Robert Ferguson, District 3.
James Kaufman, Clerk Treasurer.
Craig Wiley, City Attorney.
Elizabeth Lamping, Council District 1.
Kara Ferguson, at large.
Thank you, Council. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I'll ask our Pastor Bailey of the Mayor's Faith-Based Roundtable to come up for the invocation. Pastor?
Bow your heads, please. Lord, our most loving Father in heaven, Lord, we pause our day, Lord, to come to you, ask for your blessing, Lord, over our lives, our community, and our nation. Lord, we ask that you remind us that true joy and peace can only be found as we walk and talk with you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
This time I would ask for a moment of silence for all of the military members killed in Afghanistan, all of those who perished on 9/11 of 2001, and local residents Pat Baxter, Vivian Lashbrook, and Charles Lewis. So a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Council, tonight we have 4 special presentations. The first one is Fire Prevention Week Proclamation, and I'll read it into the record. City of Beech Grove Fire Prevention Week, October 3rd through the 9th. Whereas City of Beech Grove is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our city, and whereas home fires killed more than 2,770 people in the United States in 2019, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to 339,500 home fires, whereas smoke alarms sense smoke well before you can, alerting you to the danger in the event of a fire in which you may have as little as 2 minutes to escape. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half, and whereas Beech Grove residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire, and whereas the Beech Grove Fire Department members are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education, and whereas Beech Grove residents are responsive to public education measures, are better able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes, and whereas the 2021 fire prevention theme, Learn the Sounds of Fire Safety, effectively serves to remind us it is important to learn the different sounds of smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. Therefore, I, Dennis B. Buckley, Mayor of the City of Beech Grove, do hereby proclaim October the 3rd through the 9th, 2021 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this city, and I urge all of the people in Beech Grove to learn the sounds of fire safety for Fire Prevention Week 2021 and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of the Beech Grove Fire Department. And I'll ask the clerk to enter that into the record, please. Thank you, Jeff. The second proclamation this evening is proclaiming Constitution Week, September the 17th through the 23rd. So if the ladies from the DAR would come up and join me. know I can't stand it. I'm going to ask Kim Shepherd to say a few words this evening. She's not here. I'm going to read this proclamation for Constitution Week into the record, please. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law. And whereas September the 17th, 2018 marks the 231st anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September the 17th through September 23rd as Constitution Week. Whereas the City of Beech Grove thanks the Samuel Bryan Chapter, National Society of Daughters of the American Revolution, for their continued diligence in promoting patriotism in our community. Now therefore, I, Dennis B. Bunkley, do hereby proclaim September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week in the City of Beech Grove, Indiana, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideas of the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Beech Grove to be affixed this 7th day of September 2021. Suzanne? Congratulations. Before you leave, on a serious note, a couple of you met with Pastor Dan and myself about this coming Veterans Day celebration, or service we have on the steps of City Hall at 11 a.m. It's special this year. You want to explain why? Come on up.
Good evening. 2021 is the 100th anniversary of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. So we will be having a special presentation at the Veterans Day celebration here at City Hall. And we wanted to invite everyone in the community and join us for this special recognition for those soldiers who are known only to God and who are buried in Arlington Cemetery and throughout the country. But we will be having a special reception afterwards, and we just want to make sure everyone is invited and come educate yourself on the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council, we've been talking a couple of months now about the American Rescue Plan, and you have a couple of unique opportunities to help civic groups in the City of Beech Grove, especially those nonprofit groups who serve others. You heard from the Promoters Club a couple meetings ago. A while back, I invited my friend Bill Boone to come up with Servants Heart. We all know the ministry of Servants Heart and all the good they do in this city. But I wanted Bill to come up and talk a little bit about you, about what they do and the number of people that they feed. And maybe we can include them in this plan when we go down the road. So Bill, come on up. I'll help you with the thing if you want. Go ahead and bring it up. Always good to see you.
Good to see you too, Mayor. Well, good evening, council and fellow Beech Grovians, I guess, out here. Many of you have known me from being involved in the city for many, many years. I'm a graduate of 1971. So this year we're going to celebrate our 50th anniversary of our high school reunion. And so Dennis and I have served the people of Beech Grove for almost 23 years. And what you have before you here is a map of Marion County. I'm sorry, if you have x-ray eyes, you can see the map in the back end. But originally, when we started Servant's Heart in October of 2003, August 3rd, this last month, we started our 19th year of ministry to the people of the Beech Grove and the surrounding areas. But when we started, we had originally had 6 zip codes: 46203 south of Raymond, 239 south of Troy, all of Beech Grove proper, 227, 237, and 259. Because when we started, there were some doing Perry Township in the Beech Grove area. Of course, St. Vincent de Paul was doing the whole county. So since I grew up in Beech Grove, God had me start the ministry here in Beech Grove. Dennis asked me a few weeks back of how 2020 affected what we did. So Gary, would you pass out a few of those flyers and anyone else wants one, make sure they get one. When March of 2020 hit, the whole world was turned upside down. Many food pantries closed their doors entirely because they were scared to death of what was to come. Fortunately, at Servant's Heart, we were only closed 2 days last year. The Saturday, immediately following the declaration of shutting down the country, and one day when we had one of our volunteers on vacation contract COVID, so we shut down to reorganize. So what that meant, so what I have done with this sheet of paper here is, fortunately, our contributors have never stopped, both individuals, corporations, and churches. They have continued to supply us. But one of the first things that happened to us was we lost our volunteers because the seniors were not coming out of their homes because of the fear of the virus. All of our food drives immediately stopped because people weren't going to church. Even the post office, the last 2 years, they've always been one of our biggest contributors on the second Saturday of May, where we would get between 25 and 30,000 pounds of food in that one Saturday. But that has stopped. It stopped in 2020 and did not occur this year in 2021. We had to learn to work within guidelines beyond our controls. It seemed like every week there was additional guidelines that we had to try to work within. So the kids, we had a lot of high school kids that would come and volunteer. We lost that base. So we lost our seniors and we lost our teens. When we developed a plan in March, we normally have people come in the pantry and shop. Well, we couldn't do that anymore. So we tried to figure out how we're going to still feed the people. So we first started out by what we called the drive-through, or not the drive-through, but the car hopping, where we'd make a list of what we had for the week. We'd go out to the cars and check off the list. Well, that's very weather dependent. And by the time we got to an end of a rainy night, we could no longer read the lists. So then we adapted and started the drive-through system where we're giving a certain amount of food to each family. And for big families, they get a little extra here and there. So when we created this new distribution system, God miraculously sent us a group of about 15 volunteers that came every Thursday, every Saturday. And together we developed a way where we can actually still serve the clients. And you'd be amazed how that so many of them were touched that we're still open when everybody else is closed. But we have several nurses that are on our volunteer staff that made sure that we were sanitizing and we were wearing masks when we're in the building and all those kinds of things. But it was just amazing to see God develop this team that was faithful. And then as the weeks went on, we were like a fine oiled machine. I mean, people didn't have to say each week what your jobs were, because everybody knew what their jobs were, or they filled in here, there, and here, and there, and here, and there. But it was just amazing to see this team come together. On the bottom half of that sheet, on number 2 there, you can see that we had collected in 2019 167,313 pounds of food. Well, God knew that wasn't going to be enough. So in 2020, we had expanded our service area from the original 6 to 32 of the 37 zip codes of Marion County. And we had collected 529,000 pounds of food to feed those folks. Now, I'm a Beech Grove graduate, and I know how to cipher, but there's no way that I could plan for so many people coming. And as you see down here farther on the sheet here, we had touched over 24,000 lives in 2020. In the prior year, in 2019, we did a little over 15,000, which is about the population of the city of Beech Grove, to put it in perspective. So we're a group of volunteers that love people and love to serve the people. And we love serving here in Beech Grove because that's where we grew up. And I know so many of the people. I mean, that's what I love about the Fall Festival is people come by, I greet them by name because I was part of this community for my entire life. But as we kind of come to you and appeal for some resources, the one thing that we struggled with last year was to have a vehicle available to pick up the food when God supplied it. Now, we had borrowed trucks from Hayes and Sons. Our fleet, our yellow truck, we affectionately call her Bella. She's a 1994, and she has 192,000 miles on her. What? And still running every week. We just recently were given 2 mini buses that we're going to be able to alter to haul small groups of food. They're both 2002. Our newest vehicle is 2016, which is a beautiful Ford Transit, and I was going to drive it tonight, but I couldn't fit it in a parking space out here. So for 2 years, we have been getting grants to buy a newer truck, not a new truck, because a new truck costs $100,000 million, and we don't have that kind of money. But every time we go to look at a truck, the costs keep going up because of this chip thing, and people are buying old trucks because they can't get new trucks. So we have collected with 2 grants $7,892 just a little under $8,000. Well, that won't buy a 2015, 2016 box truck. We're looking for like a 14-footer that we can use for whatever. So if the board, the council would bless us with a little monies towards that purchase of that truck, we would greatly appreciate it. And it's just amazing how God uses opportunities like this for things like that to happen. So do you have any questions?
I got one,
Yes,
Bill.
Dave.
How do you expand your area? Do you let churches know in the area, or? do you
Well,
send out?
most of the food pantries are on 211, which is a social help network. And so they have a posting for us of how, what the area is that we're going to serve. So starting in 2021, we expanded to take in all of 46203 and all of 46239. So these two blue spots here are the extensions of taking those whole zip codes. And then we have now expanded to now serving 8 zip codes. We've taken on 46217 and 46225. And the reason why we have done that is because over by Southern Plaza, there are some apartment buildings that we split the apartment building. Part of the apartment we were serving and part of the apartment we weren't, because part of it was in 227 and part of it was in 225. So now we basically cover from Carroll Road all the way to White River on County Line. So I mean, it's a huge area, and if you want to come up after the meeting, all these little red dots on here, I don't know if you can see them unless you got real good eyes, those are families. Those are families that we serve. And where there's a big cluster, like over in here, that's Parkview, over in Churchman Avenue, down here is Redfern, down off 9th Avenue, so you'll see that where the clusters are of the families that we serve. And it's just amazing how that, I started here as a center because that's where God raised me up as a kid. And he knew I had contacts here in 107. So then we just went around it, because some of Beech Grove is in 203, some of Beech Grove is in 227. You know, and it's actually, I forget, this is what they call the 4 square, because we serve Center Township, Warren Township, Franklin Township, and Perry Township. We serve all 4 of those townships, and most pantries only serve 1 or 2 townships. So it's amazing how God used us to blossom out and meet the need. So, any other questions? Yes?
Tell them the study you did on how many houses in Beech Grove that we recovered.
I forget that number, Danny, but there's like 5,000, households in Beech Grove. And since we've been in ministry, we have touched almost 10,000 households. So twice the size of Beech Grove in households. So, does the crowd have any questions?
I have one question, over here, like,
Right here,
right.
Bill.
Oh, yes.
He's trying to figure out who's talking.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Karen.
It's okay.
I'm sorry, Karen.
It's
Sorry.
okay. Can you share with me what your, like, maybe your top 2 needs are that the community could help with? So at this point, you're looking for a 14-foot potential van or some sort of vehicle?
A box truck would be nice.
A box truck?
Because we also, what makes us different than other pantries is we do, beyond the food, we do furniture. And we've
Okay.
been working with several social workers lately that have people coming out of homelessness. And we, just within the last 6 weeks to 2 months, we have completely furnished 10 homes.
Wow.
For folks. And this is, one day we got a call on Friday, I think it was Friday afternoon, about 12:30, a mom that no one would help her. And so she got our number through 211. She called and told Linda, who answers the phone, I'm going to lose my kids if I don't have furniture in this home tonight. And my team, God's team, well, they're my team too, but God's team had all of the parts they needed, but it was spread all over the place. And so that's why we need some extra vehicles, because it's nice to load up a household of furniture and be able to almost be like Task Force 1. We mobilize as soon as we get the call. And I mean, there is nothing greater than to meet the need of a mom who's going to lose her kids. If someone doesn't respond, and God has used us not only that time, but many times for that exact situation. And so many of the other, I know St. Vincent de Paul is the other one that does furniture in this area, but a lot of the smaller pantries like us don't do that. It's just all they can do to do food because of the volunteers. And so, Kara, when we have extra equipment, then we can have things staged and ready to go. And Gary and his team, if they get a card with the need, immediately they are mobilizing to get the things in place. Because we have things here at the pantry on Elmwood. We have a storage place across the way. We have a storage place in Greenwood. And we're in the process of trying to build a 10,000 square foot of our own here within the next couple months, the next couple years, we're hoping. But that's what this additional truck does. I mean, just in the last 3 weeks, we've had 2 requests for hospital beds. And most people won't mobilize on a hospital bed because them darn things are heavy. But when they come apart, and we've got a trailer with a flat gate on it that we can roll things up into. When you meet the needs of a family like that, just like the commercial says, the feeling is priceless, believe me. And I didn't even go in how we had to change everything at the holidays, but come and see us at the pantry. We set up the knick-knack paddywhack sale every Saturday. Everything that we have is out on display. And you'd be amazed how the little bitty tchotchke-like things, oh, that's just so beautiful. You know, and people, it's just a treasure. So, but we give beds and the furnitures and the dressers. And I mean, folks, the people are hurting so bad right now. And so we're doing everything in our power to help meet those needs. So, sorry I took a whole lot of time to say all that, but if you be around me for very long, you'll know my heart pretty darn quick.
Wait a minute, Bill, don't
We have people with fires.
don't leave yet.
Okay.
You know, Bill never shied away from a free cup of coffee. And long before Servant's Heart, Bill would come into the fire station and we'd sit in the office and drink coffee. And I don't know if this, when Bill started Servant's Heart, I don't know if this is what really started it or not. He came in to sit with me, and which was common, and we'd drink coffee in the afternoon, and a gal walked in, and she hadn't ate, her and her 2 kids, I don't know if you remember this, hadn't ate in 2 days. And so Bill took them over to the Burger King, and they got a sandwich, and they got something to eat. Remember that story?
Yeah, it was at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
As little Samantha and Cheyenne.
Yeah.
Their ages 4 and 5 years old.
So, you know,
At the Diplomat Apartments, within stone's throw of Beech Grove High School, these 2 little girls in 2001 had not eaten in 2 days. And we went over, when Rosie called me, I'm gonna tell a little bit on him now. He had gotten a call after I went to see this family. This was at Thanksgiving. I told the mom we would give her Thanksgiving meal. We would go back to National City and divide up what we had into another pile and bring it to her. But before I got back to the bank, Dennis had got a call from the guy at ADM Milling saying that his company had collected a truckload of food. And the employees were fighting over whose church was gonna get it. And so Dennis says, "Do you wanna go get it?" I said, "Where is it? I'll be right there." So we went, he and I had been helping families since '98. And then when we'd have.
Just never talked about it.
Yeah, we just did it.
Yeah.
We just did it. And then when God put me in that home with those two little girls in 2001, I wrestled with God for 2 years before Servant's Heart was started in August of 2003.
So council, you have the opportunity to, when you put your plan together, with the pro tem and Mike Klein, we'll talk about that later on tonight. You can certainly include these civic groups who do so much for the people of this city. And we struggled last year. Last year was tough. And I hope it doesn't go back to that again this year. But anyway, Bill, thank you. Always good. Always good. Last special presentation this evening is the final plat approval for the Amtrak Industrial Park. And then after that, we will hear resolution number 9, 2021. Back with us again is Tammy Wortman from Lewis and Capps. Tammy, always good to see you.
There is no way I can follow that. So my commercial interest in no way will follow that, but I am here to, in part, repeat the information that I presented to you last month, which was a request for approval, which was granted, of a preliminary plat for Amtrak Industrial Park, which splits the property between two CSX parcels into 3 development parcels, so we can build the community and turn a piece of vacant property into an industrial use for employment purposes. That is in the works and the plan is moving forward, and in the ordinary course, the preliminary plat was presented and approved. Today, 30 days following that last meeting, I'm here to request your approval for the final plat. There are no changes to what was presented to you the first time. The same covenants, conditions, layout, legal description, all the same. The resolution makes minor modifications from the preliminary one that was executed in August, to make it final rather than preliminary. I do have copies for signature. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Any comments, certainly glad to attend to those. Okay, I will hand, if I may, there are 6 copies. Because of the recording requirements in Marion County, there are large size, medium sizes, 1 for mapping, 1 for the recorder's office, and then the resolution. The resolution only differs from what you already have in previous packets in that it attaches the same legal description that was both on the plat and provided in August. But it does require 6 signatures from everyone. And a motion and approval.
Yes.
Tim, you might have to point out.
Yes, of course.
You want me to go ahead and read it into the record while they're going through that?
You
or-
can do the resolution, is it resolution 9?
Correct.
Okay. You can read it into the record, Jim.
Okay. Resolution of the Common Council, the City of Beech Grove, number 9, 2021. This resolution of the Common Council, City of Beech Grove, Indiana, approves a final subdivision plat with waivers of conditions for the Amtrak Industrial Park, a 3-lot subdivision of approximately 115 plus or minus acres, located east of Emerson Avenue and south of the Subway Street. Whereas the petitioner and owner, Emerson Avenue LLC, has submitted its petition for plat approval for a 3-lot subdivision of 115 plus or minus acre tract from the current tax parcels. Parcel ID numbers 49-10-22-112-001.000-700, 49-10-22-116-005.000-702, 49-10-22-124-002.000-700, 49-10-27-110-001.000-300, 49-10-27-110-002.000-302, 49-10-27-111-001.000-302, and 49-10-27-113-001.000-302. The complete legal description of the subject property is attached as Exhibit A. Whereas the subject property is currently zoned I-4, no change to this existing zoning classification has been requested. Whereas street access is available to Subway Street and Emerson Avenue to the north, and both Cincinnati Street and Big Four Road to the south. Whereas the petitioner requested certain waivers for infrastructure and traffic planning necessitated by the unique location, surrounding properties, and certain existing deed restrictions, which will require specific site development plans by future owners and further approval by this council. These waivers were approved with the preliminary plat approval by Resolution 2021-6. Whereas the proposed final plat approval is consistent with the approved preliminary plat for Amtrak Industrial Park. Whereas the council was given jurisdiction for this petition for plat approval pursuant to Indiana Code 36-3-1-7, 36-7-4-201, et sec. Effective July 1st, 2021. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council, City of Beech Grove as follows. The final plat approval of Amtrak Industrial Park, consisting of 3 lots located east of Emerson Avenue and south of Subway Street, particularly described in Exhibit A, is hereby approved with the following waivers of conditions and commitments. A. Infrastructure plans are waived pending site development and improvement plans. B. Traffic plans are waived pending site development and improvement plans. 2. The final plat approval of Amtrak Industrial Park shall include the commitments adopted by Resolution 2021-6. A. Submission of engineering and infrastructure construction plans prior to site development and improvement within 2 years of final plat approval. B. Submission of traffic control plans prior to the site development and improvement within 2 years of final plat approval. C. Submission of private street easement and maintenance agreement within 2 years of final plat approval. So resolved this date, September 7th, 2021, in regular session of the Common Council, City of Beech Grove, Indiana.
Questions or comments from council members?
On the copy that I have, it says plat approval by resolution 2012-6, so that should be 2021. I just want to make, so you got that corrected, okay.
Council, if there's no further questions or comments, I'll ask for a motion to approve resolution number 9, 2021.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same sign. Please register your vote.
You want a yes or no beside our vote?
Yes.
Did I do 6 of them?
How many copies are there, Tammy?
6.
6 total, right? Yeah.
Two up here.
Tammy, here's 2.
There are 2 resolutions, 2 11-by-17 plat that need signed on page 2.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
2
Thank you.
very large,
There you go. Okay.
also on page.
That's why there's that big paper in front of us. Okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here, that top part. Pass those along. You signed those two, so you those two. You guys can start with those two.
Yes, I believe, yeah. So there's just two, I just received two, correct?
You received two of those, yes. And then two of these.
Okay.
Two small, two medium, two large.
So did you say there were 6 total to sign?
I have two more over here, Liz.
Okay, 2 more there. Okay. Okay, so there's 4.
I'll just start
Yep.
putting them.
Perfect.
Those going down, there's, okay.
Whoops. I lost my mind. I don't know what I'm doing. Yes. Oh, there's two.
Two large, two large.
Got it. Where is it? Oh. Feel famous. I know.
I think there's one on that side. Yes.
Thank you.
Council, next up, next order of business is you have been presented a printed copy of the minutes of the previous meeting dated Monday, August the 2nd, 2021. Floor is open for any questions, comments, or corrections. If there are no questions, comments, or corrections, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Public comments. Counselor?
Nobody signed up to speak.
We'll move to committee reports. Police station update. Chief, any comments on the police station?
I don't really have any. I really don't have one.
Okay. No report from the ABC. The RDC representative is here. Matt, did you want to go through your report? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Good evening. Before all of you, and I emailed it earlier this morning, is a report of the RDC's activities, a summary of its meeting from August. We did meet on Thursday, August the 19th, to conduct business. This is after we took July off as a hiatus. The RDC usually takes one of the summer months off, as I've learned, and so we decided on July as that particular month where we would not meet. We handled our usual business, approval of previous minutes, as well as dealing with certain vouchers, accounts payable, and getting those paid. The rest and the bulk of the meeting had to do with taking in information on 3 potential projects. And I stress for the minutes here that they are potential. They're at the beginning preliminary stages. We don't know if we're actually going to do them, thus the gathering of that information. The first one has to do with a potential for building possibly an amphitheater somewhere here in the city. That information was brought to us by RDC Secretary Kathy Chappell, as well as our friends over at Crossroad Engineers, mostly because they are actually, my notes weren't exactly clear on this one, but they are helping build, at least they've helped design, a amphitheater project that's being put in by the city of Franklin, down in Johnson County. So some piece of information about what certain communities throughout the state have done in that regard, what designs folks have put forward. Crossroads Engineers discussed the Franklin project in more depth and presented what their budget had been. My understanding is, though, is that that is part of a larger project that they're doing in enhancing one of their parks that is closer to downtown. While Crossroad Engineers was here, they did give us an update on Phase 1 of the Franciscan Trail that's looking to be completed in the next few weeks, as well as their preparation for Phase 2. The next potential project, which we are on the RDC now starting to call the Billboard Park project, that has to do with the property that's over at 3rd and Main, where that billboard is. Liz Lamping, our vice president, who also serves on this council, has been gathering information about potentially RDC getting a interest in that property to make it into a smaller park to help enhance Main Street and bring an additional option for folks to come out to Main Street and enjoy the amenities here. Again, more information is being gathered from the property owners and what the RDC could actually do with that. And the third potential project was brought to us by Chief Maurice. That has to do with the new police headquarters project and the possibility of purchasing or acquiring property that is near that new site for additional parking. That would serve as additional parking for those who have business at police headquarters, as well as for use for those who come to Main Street and visit one of the many shops, restaurant, bars, what have you. We're still waiting for more information from the chief about what property may be available, so we continue to get those updates and moving that forward. Lastly, the mayor addressed under public comments the RDC, gave us updates on various projects that the administration is looking at, from the CSX property to the community center and its parking structure, what have you. But he also did stress that his priority, or one of his priorities, has to do with the police station and the enhancements and services that they need. And so, as one of our mandates, and our board's attorney is here, so he can throw something at me if I'm misstating something, but one of the mandates of the RDC to help improve items is public safety. And so where we can help the police department, especially in making sure that the police headquarters is being set up for its intended and long-lasting use, Speaking for myself as a member and as the president of the RDC, we are more than happy to help where we can. So looking forward to getting more information on this potential project. Lastly, and as I said, these are all potential projects. There have been many things that have been brought to the RDC, some of them small, some of them look like they would be rather larger project on top of our other responsibilities having to do with the TIF districts and those areas and where we can help improve those areas economics-wise. That includes Main Street. We will be looking at a way to prioritize all those projects over the coming years. As you all may be aware, we are coming to the end of paying back our bonds, and so we will have a number of revenue that will be available to put those towards those intended uses, but that revenue is not. We don't know how long it would last, and also it's not going to be obviously that big, and so prioritization is key. And so we will be looking to do that, as well as getting input from the residents here of Beech Grove, when they wish to provide that input, as well as from those of you on the council and from the mayor, obviously. So with that, I will pause. If you have any questions, I did bring my binder with me, so I can refer back to all that information on my notes. But other than that, I thank you for the time to address you all this evening.
Well, I just want to take a second to thank you. Under your leadership, the RDC, I can say that, there's a clear direction, a clear path that we can see with the RDC. For being on the council, I think I speak for everybody on the council, we appreciate that we know exactly what's going on and how we can work together to better the city.
Thank you, Counselor. I will just remind everyone, I am one of your 2 appointees, and so I consider at least the reporting here to be a requirement of that. Of course, this is for me, being the newest member and then having been made president. It's like a get tossed in the deep end,
right.
Make sure everything's running. But I would say that I'm thankful for everyone who's on the RDC, Liz, Kathy, especially long-term members, and as well as Bob. Being an attorney, one thing to be a good attorney, I believe, is to know, you're an expert in some things, you're not an expert in all things. And so thank God for Bob and keeping us on the right track and making sure that we are doing everything that we are supposed to be doing under state law. But I appreciate those comments and any other ways that we can make sure that you are constantly informed or making sure that we are keeping an eye on certain things where we can help the city. Always happy to take that input. Feel free to contact me at any time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. The Greenscape Commission did not report. The compliance report is in your packet. The final report this evening is the financial report. Jim?
Good evening. City Hall is now open to the public. Citizens can pay their sewer bills in person, online, by phone, mail, or by dropping payments off in one of the 2 24-hour drop boxes. Information on the American Rescue Plan funding continues to be updated. The first deposit of $1,686,182.18 was received on July 28th and receipted into Fund 176. We'll be working with Klein Peter Consulting to form a committee and develop a plan on how to spend the money over the next few years. We're in the middle of budget season. The council will hear budget October 4th on first reading only. The second and third readings will take place on October 18th. The mayor and I have met with each department head and have most of the preliminary budget completed. We will discuss more at the council workshop scheduled for September 21st. In your packet was a letter about funds and how we can classify a fund as dormant. I will now read that letter into the record and ask for a motion to make those transfers. I'd like to ask for your approval to classify the following 3 funds as dormant. According to the State Board of Accounts, this is a simple process that can be completed at any public meeting. I will ask for a motion and a vote during my financial report. 2 of the funds are projects that have been completed, and this money would be moved to the general fund. The third fund is a Main Street Loan Payments Program. This program is no longer in effect, and the last business owner paid off their loan last year. These funds would be moved to the Rainy Day Fund. I also attached a current fund report that shows the current balances. Following funds are no longer active and are not part of the tax levy. Fund 475, the Churchman Avenue Sidewalk Project, has a remaining balance of $4,287.98. Fund 478, Beech Grove Arlington Churchman Roundabout, That is a fund balance of $58,955.58. And finally, Fund 479, which was a Main Street loan payments fund, has a balance of $14,464.53. So I added an email on there. I reached out to the State Board of Accounts. Just going through the fund report, we have a lot of funds in the city, and these three specifically are no longer in effect. That money's just sitting there, not being used at all. So I reached out to them, and they said, per the email, it says, for State Board of Accounts purposes, the process is council would, during a public meeting, move to declare a fund dormant because the purpose of the fund has been fulfilled and no longer needed. They should also order money remaining in any of the funds being declared dormant to either general or rainy day. See provisions on Indiana Code 36-1-8-5, which apply to funds of the levy, but the State Board of Accounts has taken the audit position that the same procedures would also apply to any fund on your books. So, open up any questions on that. Like I said, the first two would go to the general fund, and the third one, the Main Street loan program. That was started years ago. The last business paid off their loan last year, so they paid the whole time and continued to pay on it, and finally paid it off last year. The bank, and then I'll go back to my report. The bank account balances are listed below as of today, September 7th, 2021. City Corporation, $5,826,454.27. Of that, included in that total is a fund 176, which is the ARP money, $1,686,182.18. Utilities, $1,879,105.20. Criminal Investigation Fund, CIF, $81,879.17. RDC General, $794,081.11. RDC Debt Service now has a balance of $0. The RDC only has one payment remaining on their bond, so the $240,000 balance was transferred to the general RDC bank account as recommended by our financial consultant. The final bond payment will be paid out of the general RDC bank account in 2022. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. So here's my report, and then to approve those fund transfers, I would need a motion and a second to approve those. But any questions? I know it's a lot of information.
I'll make a motion to transfer those funds.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same sign.
Thank you.
Well done, Jim. We have no unfinished business carried over from the previous meeting. Tonight, we have 3 items of new business. The first is Resolution Number 7, 2021, transfer of funds in the CARES Act. At this time, I'll defer to the clerk to read the resolution into the record. Jim?
Resolution number 7, 2021. Resolution number 7, 2021 is a resolution approving the transfer of funds from the CARES Act into the general fund for the city of Beech Grove. Whereas the city of Beech Grove sought reimbursement of public health and public safety payroll costs as allowed through federal CARES Act funding, which were received by the city of Beech Grove from the Indiana Finance Authority. And whereas the payroll expenditure activity for public health and public safety payroll costs shall be captured in the CARES Act grant fund by transferring the expenditures from the fund from which the expenditures were originally made. And whereas in light of the governor's public health emergency, an alternative process is being implemented to transfer all or a portion as determined appropriate by the governing body of Beech Grove of the reimbursed federal CARES Act monies that are specific to public health and or public safety payroll costs into the general fund. And whereas the process contemplated herein is intended to allow for maximum usage of these funds. Now therefore be it affirmed that the Common Council of the City of Beech Grove hereby establishes the following process in order to utilize CARES Act funding to properly pay public health and public safety payroll costs. 1. The CARES Act reimbursement for public health and safety health and public safety payroll were receipted into the CARES Act fund, and thereafter a claim shall be created against the CARES Act fund for the amount up to the payroll reimbursement amount that the City of Beech Grove determines shall be receipted into the general fund. This claim must be supported by the public health and or public safety payroll costs that have been expensed from the general fund or other appropriate funds and clearly documented in the records of the City of Beech Grove. 2. The money claim shall be receipted into the general fund. 3. After the payroll reimbursement, the amount of $8,892.79 has been receipted into the general fund. The normal appropriation procedure shall apply to the expenditure of the reimbursement amount. Now therefore be it further affirmed that the resolution shall go into effect immediately upon passage by the Common Council, signed by the Council Pro Tem, attested by the Clerk Treasurer, and signed by the Mayor.
Any questions or comments for the clerk? Jim, if we can go back very briefly,
About the CARES Act funding?
about when we originally got the funding and how much for public.
So last year, there was a CARES Act that was passed, and the city of Beech Grove received, I think it was like around $211,000 allowed to us that we would submit claims to the city of Indianapolis, and they would reimburse us for claims responding to the coronavirus and what we did to fight the coronavirus and how it affected our city. So we submitted those claims. Towards the end there, and I gave you guys a letter that I submitted on November 30th. So towards November, they said, hey, you have this amount of money left over out of your total budget. So do you have any payroll costs that you want to submit for reimbursement? So I submitted this letter, and it was to Debbie Hall, November 30th, 2020. Attaches a payroll summary of overtime expenses accrued in the month of September 2020 for the Beech Grove Fire Department. This is reimbursement request number 4 for the city of Beech Grove for a total request of $8,892.79. And I submitted category 3 unforeseen payroll expenses. The fire department has dealt directly with the COVID-19 pandemic, overtime to cover other employees' quarantine and to limit exposure between shifts. The city spent $12,457.57 during the month of September on fire department overtime. This request, if approved, will deplete the remaining allocation for the city of Beech Grove in the amount of $8,892.79. Please let me know if you have any questions. So they recommend just submit whatever you want to submit to make sure we got our allocation and got everything that was allotted to the city of Beech Grove. If we did not request that, then it would have gone back and we wouldn't have gotten the money for it. So as part of this, we received it late last year, so we're just trying to clean up some of these fund balances, kind of refresh my memory that I hadn't done that yet. So that's what I'm requesting for you guys now, to move that over to the general fund so it can be spent.
Thanks, Jim. The clerk has read resolution number 7, 2021 into the record. Any final questions on it? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make said motion to approve resolution number 7, 2021.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same sign. Please register your vote. Pardon me.
Thank you.
Council, I want to introduce General Ordinance number 6, 2021. Over the next 4 months, you're going to be introduced to 3 or 4 ordinances concerning the Franciscan Trail Greenway. Tonight is the first one. This ordinance pertains to street parking. We are not encouraging people who want to use the trail, who are going to drive down to the trail. We want them to park in the trailhead areas. We don't want them to park in someone's neighborhood. I want to give you a couple of time frames. All of the bridges are in. There's 4 bridges. All of the bridges are in. They are on course to do the first layer of asphalt the week of September the 13th. And it will take them 2 to 3 days to completely cover the trail. And then they are planning to have substantial completion by the middle of November. So they are really moving on this project. So you'll be hearing, I've had some residents approach me about this topic that we're going to discuss tonight. You'll also be hearing ordinance concerning rules for the trail, and a couple other ordinances pertaining to the trail. But tonight, I would like for you to take a look at this ordinance on first reading only. And I'll ask Jim to read the ordinance into the record. Jim, for first reading only.
General Ordinance Number 6, 2021. General Ordinance Number 6, 2021 is an ordinance that amends Chapter 78 of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Beech Grove concerning street parking for the Franciscan Trail. Whereas the City of Beech Grove is constructing a 2.2-mile greenway known as the Franciscan Trail, and whereas the Franciscan Trail will provide an added benefit of exercise and physical fitness, which will attract people not living on the trail to travel to it. And whereas the City of Beech Grove desires that citizens who do not live on the trail not park in residential areas, respecting the privacy of those who do. And whereas ample parking is available near all 5 trailheads for those who drive to access the trail. Now therefore be it affirmed that the Common Council desires to amend 78 of the Code of Ordinances concerning street parking concerning the Franciscan Trail. Now therefore be it further affirmed that the Common Council desires to insert the following subsection into the ordinance. Schedule 1. Parking prohibited at all times. E. Franciscan Trail prohibited street parking. Street between side and ordinance number. Park Meadow Drive between, the entire drive, both sides, ordinance number 06/2021. Park Meadow, entire drive, both sides. Park Meadow, entire court, both sides. Hornet Drive, west from Emerson to Dead End, both sides. Elm Street, Memorial Drive to South 4th Avenue, both sides. Memorial Drive, Elm Street to Bob's Court, both sides. South 4th Avenue, 706 South 4th Avenue, south to the Dead End, both sides. Charnwood Parkway, 9th Avenue to Middleham Lane, both sides. Classen Lane, Charnwood Parkway to Rotherham Lane, both sides. B Street Alley, 13th Avenue to 15th Avenue, both sides. Man Drive, 15th Avenue to 17th Avenue, both sides. F. Whoever violates any provisions of this schedule for which another penalty is not provided shall be fined not less than $100, nor more than $1,000 for each violation. Now therefore be it affirmed that the Common Council desires to amend 78 of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Beech Grove concerning public street parking for the Franciscan Trail. Now therefore be it further affirmed that the ordinance only applies to Chapter 78 of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Beech Grove and no other ordinance. Now therefore be it further affirmed that this ordinance shall go into effect on January 1st, 2022, after passage by the Common Council, signed by the Council President Pro Tem, attested by the Clerk Treasurer, and signed by the Mayor.
Council, the B Street Alley, the alley behind Little's and Little and Sons Funeral Home, actually it has a street name. It's called B Street. So that's what that refers to. So, but what we want to do is, we've had folks on South 4th, folks on Charnwood, and folks in Park Meadow ask that this ordinance be put in place to prevent people from parking in front of their house, cutting through their yard to get to the trail. So I'll open it up for the thoughts from the council members.
So essentially, this is to put up no parking on the street.
Trail parking, not
Okay.
residential parking. Like, let's say like someone would come over to visit their family. That would be allowed. But to go to the trail, we want to kind of curtail that.
Okay. How is that going to be enforced?
The police would have to enforce the ordinance, and it would only be enforced if the homeowner called.
Okay.
I don't think the police would actively patrol that, looking for people who park to go to the trail.
I can just see how this is going to be almost impossible to enforce, because how are we going to be able to differentiate between who's a resident or a family member of a resident. Maybe I live in Park Meadow, I'm having my son come over, I say, hey, just park in my house and you guys can walk the trail, but my neighbor doesn't know that, and he parked his car a little bit closer, then he ends up getting a ticket.
You know, another thing, Bobby, we're trying to stop is, especially in the Park Meadow subdivision, is the trail comes to the back of Park Meadow, it comes real close to the properties.
Right.
So we're trying to prevent people from parking back there and cutting through people's yards to go to the trail. That's what we're trying to prevent. Carrington is easy because the trail runs parallel with the road. So it's very simple to park and hop on the trail. And we've had citizens, not a lot, but we've had citizens come and say, you know, I'm not sure about this. We don't allow parking on the south side of Carrington, Charnwood Parkway anyway.
Right, that runs alongside the creek.
Yeah, on the south side. So that's what this ordinance came about.
Okay, and it's $100 fine to park your car there?
Well, I'm just following the ordinances that are already in place.
Right.
You know, you could ex-nay that, I mean,
the way I'm looking at it is that as a council person, we're wanting to encourage people to come to our city, to use our trail for health and fitness, but yet now if someone's excited about going to trail and doesn't see the sign posted there, they're gonna come out of the trail and have a $100 ticket on their car.
Only if someone calls and complains.
Yeah, only if someone calls and complains.
Yeah, only if somebody calls.
Yeah.
But if you got neighbors like mine,
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, I understand how the residents want to try to have some type of protection to prevent people from parking their car there and walking through their yards. I mean, hopefully you would think people would have common sense and not walk between someone's house. But I think that should be a case-by-case situation, that if somebody has somebody that walks between their house, that's when they need to call, and then that can be addressed. But because what's going to happen is that if someone sees another car parked there, they're going to keep calling on every single car. And it's going to be impossible, I can see, to enforce that.
I don't know, you know, I'm just bringing it forward to residents who have brought this concern to the office.
Okay.
So that's the only.
Yeah, I think it's something that, this is only the first reading on it. Next month, definitely when we have the full council here, that we can sit down and come up with some agreement on it. But, I mean, I could definitely see some tweaks that needs to be done with it, and then I'll write down my suggestions and bring those up next month.
I know in Greenfield, they have a trail, and they have signs posted. And on that sign, it tells what the fine is.
Okay.
And you know what? They never have a problem. People don't park there. So if we did it, it might be helpful to put what the fine would be.
Right. Or maybe, Mayor, if you can come up with some design on what you'd want that sign to look like, because obviously you're gonna have to make signage up to post it on there, because we can't leave it blindly up, or leave it blind where people have to call the city to find out what the ordinance is on this. So obviously, we were gonna have to come up with signage. The next question is how many signs are we gonna have to put up? How many spaced out along the way have to be put? How much is that going to cost? I think that's something also needs to be looked at with this ordinance also. So maybe if we can get with, I think Brad handles the signs, doesn't he?
Yeah, we already have some no trail parking already. We already have those signs. We can just tweak them a little bit. That's not a big deal.
If we could have that and get something, maybe a picture and print it off for our next packet for next month, so we can see what that looks like, so we know what we're approving, make sure it's clear for people that go there.
Okay.
I think that'll be a lot easier for us to pass this.
The other possibility is if we were to revisit it after the trail was up and we had some time to just see if it was really an issue. But then if you did that, then people would already be accustomed to parking, and then it would be trying to intervene when it was maybe too late and people already had an opportunity to start parking in those areas that they shouldn't be parking. That was just a thought. Could go either way.
All right, Jim has read the ordinance into the record. If there's no further questions or comments on it, I'll ask for a motion to approve General Ordinance 6, 2021 on first reading only.
I'll make said motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same sign. We will carry this over. We won't probably hear this again until the first meeting in November
Okay.
because of budget.
Okay. So the third- So it'll get a first, second, and third read. We won't do a first and then second and third, so we'll have time.
We'll
By the
have
time
a
we do the third-
second and at least second reading in November.
And then, so the third reading would be after the people actually had a chance to walk on the trail then, I
We
guess.
can
Yeah.
leave it at that.
Okay. Just to see, okay, thank you.
And the Parks Board has, I've asked the Parks Board to come up with a set of rules for the trail that are consistent with other trails throughout central Indiana. So they're supposed to have those back by October 1st, so you'll be seeing those too, but probably not until November. The last order of business, council, is an update on the American Rescue Plan. The Board of Works has entered into an agreement with Mike Kleinpeter and Kleinpeter Consulting Group for the development of the American Rescue Plan Act, the plan itself. And this is where the council pro tem comes in to work with Mike Kleinpeter and you folks into developing the plan on how you want to invest these funds. So over the next couple months, hopefully we could start looking at ways to provide support to several organizations and make some infrastructure improvements and whatever the council desires to do with the funds. So I'll open this up. This is the agreement that was in your packet for professional services related to the American Rescue Plan Act. So the board decided to hire Mike because we wanted to make sure he's familiar with this, and we wanted to make sure all of the T's were crossed and all of the I's were dotted, and go from there. So, the Council President, we'll be getting with you over the next month or so and start talking about this, and then you could bring it back to the council.
Yeah, so I reached out to Bobby today. We're going to try and get this meeting next week to kind of start the process, get a committee formed, and then get a plan hopefully submitted and presented to the council later this year. This is a substantial amount of money for the city of Beech Grove, and we want to make sure that we spend it the correct way and the best way in all aspects for the citizens and for the investments that it'll make in the city. So, again, working with Mr. Kleinpeter will help us know exactly, make sure it approves how we're spending it and make sure it's the correct way, because we have a few years to spend it, and I don't want to spend it incorrectly, and I don't want to leave any money on the table either. So I want to make sure we spend it to the best way possible. But yeah, like I said, we'll plan on meeting with him next week, but refer back to Bobby if he has anything else to say. But
And his fee charge is only a case by case. It's not like we're giving him a consultant fee.
Correct.
It's
So
just
it-
individual
it's an hour-
expenditure per, okay.
it's an hourly fee in regard to this specific purpose. And these funds is one eligible fee out of this ARPA fund is you can pay for consulting fees to help
Okay,
you
very good.
figure out the plan and develop a plan. So yeah, so anything that he is invoiced out of for this work will come out of that fund.
Okay.
So and he's estimating $15,000, not to exceed that right now. So he feels like he can
Good.
get the committee going, get his plan going, and get it submitted to council and
And
modify it as needed over the next couple of years.
And there might be some ideas that you're really clear on.
Yes.
Just based upon what you know in the guidelines, that you do
Yes.
not have to consult with him.
Yeah, so there's some of the stuff that I can just do as my normal day-to-day activities.
Okay.
But there's some things, again, I just want to make sure
Right, gray
some of these areas are very gray. I want to make sure we
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
Because my biggest fear is approving a claim and that they come back and audit and say, nope, that was not an eligible expense. You have to either A, reimburse it or find another way to pay for it. So That's what I don't want to happen, just to make sure. So get another set of eyes on it outside of this, and
Sure.
that way just make sure what the council's doing is the right thing to do.
So the
based on
penalty is
plan.
just, is finding another way to budget those dollars that you use. There's not like
Probably.
a fee or.
I don't know yet. I
some
don't
kind
know
of
if
a
they know
fine.
that yet.
Not
We
sure.
haven't gotten the
Okay.
final ruling
Yeah,
yet, so they
that'll
have
change,
a tentative ruling for the plan, but I think the final plan is due here in the next month or so from the federal government, exactly how you can do it, when you can do it, dates, timelines, all that stuff.
Very good. Understood. Thank you.
All right. That concludes new business. Council comments. Dave?
Thank everyone for coming. Especially like to thank Mr. Boone for his presentation. I've known Bill since early to mid-'80s, I guess somewhere in there, back in our Little League days. And Bill was a good man then and just as good today.
Oh, well, first I'd like to welcome my father, Raleigh Ferguson, who's in the attendance tonight. He's attending his first city council meeting. You know, he has a heart in public service. He spent a total of 48 years in law enforcement between IPD, IMPD, and Marion County Sheriff's Department. So as you can see, the service to the community and public is runs in the family here. For everybody, for Servant's Hearts, thank you guys. You guys provide a service that a lot of us wish we could do more with, and you guys are actually doing it. So thank you guys for what you do and the service you provide to the needs of the community, and also thank you for branching out and serving other people other than who in our community that are in need. Thank you.
I just want to thank everyone for coming and just thank you for presentations and all the good work continuing, good for the greater good. Thank you.
Well, what else could I add? You all just said it all. But yeah, I really enjoyed your presentation and everything that you guys do and making that awareness to our community. So thank you for your service there. And thanks for everybody for coming, who did come.
Council, the couple dates, and for public information, September the 21st at 7 in these chambers. I think that's a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. Is it a Thursday, Jim? Tuesday is the budget workshop, and that's where the budget gets presented to the council members. The public is invited to attend. We won't entertain any comments from the council or from the public, but this is just for information for the council. And then, and that includes the budget and the salary ordinance for 2022. On October the 14th, or the 4th, October 4th, Monday at 7 p.m. is the first reading on the salary ordinance and the budget for next year. And that is open to the public, and the public can speak. And that will be the only order of business that night. October the 18th at 7 p.m., it's a Monday, we will hear the second and third reading of the salary ordinance and budget. There will be no other business except the budget. And then we will resume normal business in November. And then November the 1st is the deadline for the clerk to submit the budget to the DLGF. So those are the dates that are important for the next couple council meetings. So having said that, motion to adjourn.
I'll make said motion.
I'll second it.
Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for coming.